Hi, I'm Chelsea.
And I'm Sophie, and we are here to help guide you to the why behind your wellness why.
Come join us on our journey.
Morning, Chelsea.
Good morning, Sophie. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Just another day.
Another day, same stuff. So this is a little bit of a continuation of last week's podcast. This is part 2 for our mindfulness one. And today we are going to take a little step back and focus on what we talked about in part 1. And we kind of started to talk about data and numbers, and we gave some examples of calories and macronutrients. And we were talking a little bit about that with hunger cues, like if you're focusing on, data and numbers versus kind of listening to your body, even with like macros and hunger cues. It's like, if you're on a really strict workout regimen, are you just going to do that every single day? Or if you're feeling like crap when you wake up the next day, are you going to like take it a little easy and listen to your body? Both are like important for different people and different things. But honestly, personally, at the end of the day, with everything in moderation, I feel that you should also really listen to your body.
Yeah. We're going to take a little bit of a step back and talk about specifically like that data piece of it. So this conversation is going to get a little bit deep and a little juicy, and it is something both of us sometimes struggle with talking about in a public platform because it's such a controversial topic in the area of health. Should you be counting calories or not? Should you be tracking your fitness? Should you be wearing a fitness tracker? So on and so forth. And a lot of people out there are on either ends. So they're very for data and only want to use data, or are very against it and really want to focus on listening to your body, being intuitive. And a lot of people don't publicly open up about the potential of being in the middle with this conversation. And as all of you have hopefully seen from our previous podcast, is that we are very much in the middle about a lot of these topics and feel that it very much depends on the individual. So we are here to talk today about being in the middle and using data in moderation, and if it is something that is positive or negative to use in your overall health journey. Let's get started. Sophie, start off by telling us your thoughts on fitness trackers. Should you own a fitness tracker? Why might fitness trackers be positive? Why might they be negative? Some examples of fitness trackers, all of that good stuff.
Awesome. Okay. So before we get to that, I have a quick little, not even story, like experience where I work now. And I feel like this has probably happened in the past as well. Like, I'm okay with taking an off day, as everyone should be, and listening to my body. And I've totally gotten like looks before, or like, "Oh, you're not working out today." And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not, because I don't feel like it. I'm like, I don't even remember the last time maybe that I took an off day. I'm not sure, which like isn't a good thing, but like I don't always write my workouts down, to be honest. But it's like, no, I'm allowed to, like, you're allowed to sit out on like a day. Okay. But to answer your question, I'm going to start with the do you need it? I'm going to say no, but it's a great tool to have in your toolbox. And there's so many fitness trackers. Like if you have an iPhone, there's one on there that will track your steps. I have a Whoop. I've had a MyZone. I mean, my family, we used to have Fitbit competitions, which got addictive, which is on the end you don't really want to be on, right? And I think they're great, but like you said, I mean, they're not for everybody, and there's a time and a place. And I feel like personally at the beginning, like all of my new trackers that I've had, like my Fitbit, ooh, I was just so obsessed at the beginning, which like it dies down a little bit. And then my zone, I like needed to get all the MEPs, which are like the points. And then with my Whoop, it's like there's red, yellow, green recovery, literally at like 100 being 100%. And some people that can really affect, like I got my booster on Thursday. I woke up Friday. What was my Whoop at? 1%. Literally couldn't have been lower. I think 0% is like dead. So like, did I let it ruin my day? No. At the beginning, like when I first had my Whoop, I was like, ooh, like I'm in the red today. Like, how do I feel though? Like I kind of had to sometimes take it away and be like, but how do I feel? Like, and I was fine. Like I would still work out hard. Now it's just, I kind of use it to keep me in check with sleeping enough and getting my, hopefully at least 7 hours and things like that. But it's a tough one, Chelsea.
Yeah, it is. And I think the same thing with nutrition, which we can get into in a little bit. But since we're on the topic of exercise, you make a really good point in terms of, are you using the information provided as information and data, using data as data? And I love that you said a tool in your toolbox. Like that is such a good way of putting it, because the question is, are you using it as data and information, or are you finding you are relying on it? And I loved the example that you gave with your Whoop. And I'll even give a personal example with me where I actually had to take a step back from using a fitness tracker because it was impacting my day. So a couple of years ago, I had a Fitbit and I had one of the ones that tracked your sleep. Like the first thing every morning I was doing before I even got up out of bed is I would look at my sleep. And that, I'm not necessarily saying is a bad thing, but what I was finding was negative was whatever the app was telling me really impacted my day and really impacted what I thought my sleep was. So like instead of me waking up and thinking to myself or reflecting on my sleep myself, I was literally opening an app and being like, what is this watch telling me? Yeah. And so I will never forget the time it hit me. Like I woke up in the morning, I felt really good. And then I looked at the app and the app had told me that I didn't sleep well. And instead of me reflecting on it or really again thinking about the why, like why is this telling me that I didn't sleep well? Just immediately I like shut it all down and I was like, oh, I didn't sleep well last night. Like there goes my productive day. I didn't even think about it. I didn't even reflect on it. And it just like hit me like, this is not healthy. This is that I'm letting a piece of equipment and a device tell me how my day is going to be. And that's not necessarily a good thing. So I had to take a step back. I got rid of my Fitbit for a while. And again, like then I've used different fitness trackers and worked on my relationship with them. But it's good. It's good to take a step back and reflect on, are you using it as data or are you relying on it? And in my case, that example, I was relying on it. I was definitely not using it as data. I was overusing it.
I want to mention another example because I think every single human being on earth has probably dealt with this in some form or another, is the scale as data.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Like I have some clients that weigh themselves every single day. And I have some clients that haven't stepped on the scale in years. And I was actually training with a trainer a couple of years ago, to be exact. And he made me weigh myself every single day. And I hated it at the beginning because then I got used to the feeling of being uncomfortable, letting it go, which was fine. And he was like, you need to take yourself out of the number. like that number isn't a reflection of who you are as a human being, which couldn't be more true. And it is data. Again, going back to literally it's a number, you're collecting that data. I've had clients literally make charts on their weight, which honestly helps them see the trend, because again, it's a trend. There are ups and downs. It is not linear. But anyways, over time, that number in the scale, it was just like, I didn't care anymore because he made me do it weekly. Like I didn't care, but it took definitely like some weeks and maybe like a few months to get there. But it's just, again, like it's not for everybody. And like, if it's a fear of yours, like you can work on getting over it, but just overall, like we're human, and just be careful with the data you're collecting and looking at and how you associate yourself with that.
Yeah. And I think going back to what I had mentioned about my Fitbit and my experience was also, again, going back, I think we're going to say it in every single episode, is the why behind it. So the scale's a great example. If you are weighing yourself and you step on the scale, why is that number that number? Like I have had clients, and again, I think every single person probably has had this happen. If you are weighing yourself and you step on the scale one morning and you see a number you don't like, and it might be quite a bit up from maybe the past time you weighed yourself, and you're like, how did that happen? And you get mad instantly. You step off the scale, you let it ruin your day. And again, I'm now going to question you as to, well, did you think about why that number might have been different? Things like how much water you drank, what you had the day before to eat, when you last went to the bathroom, like all of that impacts that number. Since we're talking a little bit about weight, I want to take a couple of minutes and talk about nutrition with this too. So we've taken a little bit of time to talk about fitness trackers, the scale. So let's take a couple of minutes, since I had mentioned it in the past episode, of numbers when it comes to food. So we can talk about calories, macros, micros, all of those types of things. So again, I know we kind of used the example last time, so I'll just say it again if someone didn't listen to last podcast. And if you didn't listen to the last podcast, go back and listen to it, because it's really good. But I use the example of someone who might be quote unquote counting their macros. So if you've heard I know this was a little bit more of a trend a couple of years ago, but like, if it fits your macros, drives me insane. Let me tell you. Oh my goodness. Like they're advertising eating just food that has no nutrients in it. Like, Sophie, don't get me started on these like protein cookies that are being sold. And I won't name a particular brand, but you know exactly what I'm talking about. Is they have so much sugar in it, but just because on the front of it, it says like protein cookie, people think all of a sudden they're so nutrient dense, but they have like no fiber in them, no micronutrients. Again, I'm going off on a tangent, so I'm going to take a breath and take a step back. But that's an example of like, you could be counting your macros or following a plan that maybe a health coach or someone sent to you, but it might still not have any like nutritional value to it. You might be hitting numbers, but you might not be getting your vitamins, your minerals, your fiber, all of those things that can really help with the inside of our body. And we really want to focus on fueling our body from the inside out. If the inside of your body is not working the way it should be, the outside of your body is not going to reflect that. And so when you're focusing on numbers so much, it's just, again, questioning yourself. Number one, are you becoming too reliant on it? So are you logging your food and it's giving you stress, anxiety, you're restricting? So I think that's another really big point, is with my clients, when we look at numbers, we try to do it in a positive way. So I'll give a really brief example. If I teach someone how to read a food label, I'm teaching them about maybe looking at fiber. So instead of counting numbers of, oh, I can only have so much, it's about, are you getting enough? So instead of saying like, I need to cut out carbs, I would switch that and say, are you eating enough fiber? So trying to focus on like what you can add versus what you can take away. Both of those examples are numbers, right? Carbs numbers. You can look at carbs on a food label. You can look at fiber on a food label. But carbs, you're trying to take away and restrict. And that is when we tell ourselves no, we want it more in every area of our life. And I know everyone can agree with that. Versus like fiber, it's like adding in, it's positive. You're trying to like eat more of something that's a little bit more nutrient dense.
No, that's awesome.
Going back a little bit to the workout. So tell us a little bit, Sophie, in terms of wrapping all of this up with talking about like mind muscle connection in relation to mindful workouts, all of that.
Yeah. So in part one, I know I discussed kind of mindfulness with workouts and like making sure you're getting your movement in, but I didn't really mention while you're doing that movement. So research has shown you actually like fire your muscles more when you actually think about firing them and using them in a movement, which I think is super cool. That's because I'm a little bit of a nerd. So like when you're doing split squats or squats, think about really pushing the floor away and using your glutes and engaging your core versus just kind of going through the motions while you're doing, you know, the workout or movement. I think is like so important. And I try and nail that away, like with all of my clients. I'm like, okay, think about these muscles while you're doing this movement.
I think that's great. And just to wrap up with the final thing. So the last time we had talked about what we felt mindfulness was, like the definition of it. And we just, again, briefly went over those things. And I think something we touched upon today is, yes, you can use the data for the positive. Yes, you can use the data for a negative, and being mindful and finding that middle ground of, number one, does data help you or hurt you? And then number two, why, kind of going back to what we said before, is like, why is it important to start incorporating mindfulness into your day-to-day life? So practicing mindfulness can help increase your ability to regulate emotions, decrease stress, anxiety, depression. It can help focus our attention. The list goes on and on and on. And so, again, I think incorporating that mindfulness into your day-to-day life, and one of those areas to reflect on with mindfulness is the data piece of it. Is, are you being mindful with the data in the wellness area? Yes or no? So with all of that, Sophie, tell everyone the takeaway of this podcast today.
So we're going to get a little deep here. We want you to think about a time where you were, or if you still are currently, using data, and if your relationship with that data is helping you or hurting you. Just reflect on that. Or if you have any friends that, you know, recently got a new fitness tool and have been talking a ton about it, just think about some of those things.
Now I really want to know, because you just pronounced it differently than I do. You guys, do you pronounce it data or data? We will leave it at that and let us know. Is it data or is it data?
So some of my like college professors said data. Like, I don't know. I say data.
I feel like I say both. Like I feel like it's who I'm talking to. Like if someone says data first, then I'll probably say data. But if someone says data, then I'll probably say data.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay, we'll end that there. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. Until next time.